This is the second of my videos in an IB Myositis series I call Power Chairs for IBM'ers. If you have not watched part 1, I encourage you to watch it before viewing this video, as part 1 covers a lot of necessary items that are helpful to determine which power chair might best suit your needs. In this part 2 video, I will take it one step further and discuss some additional technical specifications you should look for in your power chair selection. I don't mean to scare anyone by using the term technical specification, but there is always some important hidden gem information that didn't make the manufacturer's feature list for one reason or another, some positive, some negative. Should again be especially helpful for those who are selecting their first power chair in their journey with IBM. Let's first discuss basic chair construction. If you watched my 7th video titled Power Chairs for IBM'ers, I mentioned the 3 different drive types: front drive, mid drive, and rear drive. Did you realize that within those 3 drive types there are a lot of common components? All power chairs have basically the same type of components: drive motors and gearboxes, a joystick, an electronic control module, tires, also an actuator for each seat function on the chair. Then add a seat on a frame that allows everything to be bolted together. It's the positioning and sizing of those components that make each manufacturer's power chair a little bit different from each other. The electronic control module is the brain of each power chair. Yes, these modules are actually a kind of computer that are programmed to let you do certain actions and will inhibit other actions for your safety and the reliability and liability of the power chair. The modules distribute the electrical power to all the major components. Variations in these boxes are rated by amperage. While tough, rough terrain power chairs require a hefty 120 to 200 amp control module, many of today's around-the-home power chairs use only a 40 amp control module system. Control module amp ratings are sort of like horsepower in automobiles. In your car, the higher the horsepower, the stronger the vehicle. In power chairs, the same applies in that a low amperage rating of the control system would not be a good match for climbing hills or slopes or doing much sightseeing off a paved trail, but work great on a hard and flat surface. Let's face it, as your IBM advances, you will be staying closer to home and those hard and flat surfaces. Some manufacturers' power chairs have 2 control modules, one for the drive control system, which include transmitting power from the joystick to the drive motors and also controls the brakes, and a second control module that controls the input and output for things like seat actuators, lighting systems, and other chair accessories. All power chairs have spring-applied, electrically released brakes mounted on the drive motors. This assures that the brakes will be applied at all times except when you want to drive the power chair by activating the joystick. You may hear a clicking noise just before the power chair starts to move when the joystick is activated, and you will also hear a clicking noise when the drive control joystick is returned to the neutral position. This clicking noise is actually the sound of the spring-applied, electrically released brakes being released and activated. This is a normal sound on power chairs. The electronic control module senses when you actuate the joystick on the power chair to perform one of the drive functions and automatically releases the brakes to allow the drive motors to move in the intended direction. Let's talk about batteries for a few minutes. The batteries are like the fuel tank in your car. The larger the batteries, the longer you will be able to go. Since power chair components require 24 volts to power them, Power chairs require two 12-volt batteries. There are four popular sizes of sealed batteries used in the power chair industry. A U1 battery on the small side to a much larger Group 27 battery used in the very powerful models of off-road design power chairs. Space must be designed for the size of the battery required and for the type of the application intended. Batteries are typically very heavy components, and they must also be easily accessible for ease of service. On some manufacturers' models, the batteries are mounted in the rear, and some are mounted in the front of the base frame. The weight of the batteries and their placement also provide balance and stability to the power chair. The physical size of the battery in any particular power chair is usually predicated on the intent of use that power chair was designed for. Just as it would be not appropriate to put Group 27 batteries in a chair that is lightly used only around your home or apartment, it would also not be appropriate to put small batteries in a unit designed for outdoor or rough terrain conditions. The size of the batteries usually also dictate how far you will be able to drive the power chair on a single charge. Smaller batteries mean shorter ranges, and larger batteries equal longer ranges. For around-the-house applications, the smaller U1 batteries will be more than adequate to cover your intended use, as a pair of them will give you between 8 and 15 miles of use on a single charge. 2 and 3 years ago, I would log 12 to 15 miles in a single day. As of late, just running around the house, my maximum usage is often 1 or 2/10 of 1 mile, except for occasional short shopping trips traveling from our ramp van in the parking lot and into and out of the store. I might put a grand total of 1 or 2 miles on my power chair on those days. As your IBM takes you into the more advanced stages of this horrible disease, your capability and desire to travel will probably keep you a lot closer to home. So a power chair with smaller batteries may be more than adequate for your needs. As I mentioned in my previous video, the need for distance will probably be overshadowed by the need for speed of the elevating seat. It's all part of the difficult decisions you will have to make in deciding which power chair to purchase. Both power chair and battery manufacturers recommend daily charging of batteries in your power chair. This will not only provide you with fully charged batteries, but it is always good for the life of the batteries if you charge them daily. Never find yourself in a situation where your batteries get so dead that the chair will not move. This is not only bad for the batteries, but it could leave you stranded in a place where you don't want to be. By the way, if your power chair vendor gives you the choice to upgrade to MK brand batteries, I found they are worthwhile investments and often last 2 years longer than the El Cheapo batteries sometimes provided with power chairs. While you are waiting for your first power chair to be delivered to you, you may want to plan on where you intend to park it at night for charging. Since you will always want to start your day with fully charged batteries in your power chair, I recommend thinking about a good place you can place your battery charger and be able to plug it in before retiring for the night. In short, battery size and drive model amperage may dictate how successful your chair is in your intended use and needs to be identified before selecting a power chair. Make sure you talk to your power chair professional about how you plan on using the chair and the distances that you hope to be able to drive in order for him to identify a power chair with the proper drive control system, amperage, and battery. Another specification important to your selection of a power chair and where you use it is ground clearance. I recently tried out a new Pride Mobility Jazzy Air power chair. Although it seemed like a great chair feature-wise and did everything it was supposed to while I was driving it around inside the vendor store, and if I would have relied on Pride Mobility specification sheet, I would have purchased this chair. But a major problem for me was realized when I tried driving it into my ramp van just to see if it would fit. The problem that surfaced was this chair has a very low ground clearance at the center middle bottom of the power chair, as the drive motors are mounted only 1 inch from the ground instead of the 2.5 inches found on their website specifications, and did not clear the 2-inch high easy lock bracket mounted on the passenger side of my van that I use on my current power chair. Had I relied solely on their spec sheet and not tried it in my van, I probably would have purchased this product only to be disappointed when I found out the ground clearance problem in my van. I had my wife take a picture of the actual 1-inch ground clearance of the Jazzy Air, and it makes me think that it could be problematic when driving on some concrete sidewalks that are not perfectly even. Or if you drive off the edge of your driveway or sidewalk onto a lawn at an angle and the lawn surface is a bit lower than the driveway surface, there is a point where the Jazzy Air will hang up on the edge of the concrete surface. Unfortunately, the weight of the power chair and your weight will be concentrated on the drive motor casing and could damage one or both motors. If you damage a drive motor, it will cost you about $730 each to replace, plus freight and labor to replace one or both. Again, I'm not trying to negate the new Jazzy Air, as I think it's a great in-home power chair. But I can realize why Pride Mobility does not advocate taking this chair off a hard, flat surface because of its inherent design, including such a low ground clearance, small batteries, as well as the low amperage of the control module system. As I touched on in my previous video, you will always want to know the width of your door openings before selecting a power chair. My recommendation is always to have plenty of clearance between the width of your power chair and the door openings. You will be driving your power chair, sometimes in semi-dark conditions, and the more clearance you have, the less damage you will incur by hitting the door opening frames. The overall width of your power chair, as shown in the technical specifications, might be measured as the width at the outside of the tires. On my Quantum Edge 2.0, the widest point is not at the tires, but at the pivot bar at the rear that supports the armrest. The Quantum Edge spec sheet shows the width at the outside of the tires and is not the widest point. Power chair manufacturers will usually choose the narrowest seat dimension in their specifications to state their width. And if you select a wider seat than the technical specifications were made from, your chair's armrest may be wider than the width dimension shown on their brochure. Make sure you know what the overall width of your chair will be at the widest point, so you won't have your long waited for chair delivered only to find out that it does not fit through the bedroom or bathroom doorways in your home or apartment. Remember, as your IBM advances, you will probably be getting thinner, so don't buy a power chair with an oversized seat on it if you really don't need it, because the overall width might be wider than you really need in your future. Another technical specification that is only shown on some brochures is the maximum obstacle climbing ability. When driving a mid-drive wheel power chair, the front set of caster wheels and the rear set of caster wheels have the ability to float with the surface you are driving on. When driving over a threshold at your front door, you will notice the front casters will raise so that your drive wheels will maintain contact with the floor. Likewise, after your drive wheels have cleared the threshold, the rear set of casters will raise when going over the threshold again to allow your drive wheels to maintain contact with the floor surface. But power chairs with an elevating seat will limit how much front and rear caster suspension is allowed, so the chair remains safe and does not tip over when the seat is in the elevated position and the center of gravity is much higher. Most chairs have the ability to climb over door thresholds, but there could be other areas in your home that might cause a problem. Remember to check the drop between your garage door floor and your driveway in case there is an elevation difference greater than what your new chair might be able to handle. Planning for your power chair purchase needs a lot of thought. In the normal progression of inclusion body myositis, things will probably not be improving for you, if at all. Your present condition is unfortunately probably the best you'll ever be again. But your current situation might be improved as far as quality of life if you can get out and visit more places. Perhaps your IBM is currently keeping you from the embarrassing falls while walking around the block or in stores and shops, where if you have a mobility device like a power chair, your quality of life will be greatly improved. Remember too, as I mentioned in my first power chair video, your power chair salesman helping you select your new mobility vehicle knows virtually nothing about IBM and its future. You will have to explain to him what your future looks like with this disease in order to select a chair that will work for you long term. I realize that the discussion about when to purchase your first power chair troubles many people with IBM. Some fall injuries create damage where you may not walk again for a long time or could also be fatal. Therefore, being successful at preventing falls immensely helps your physical and mental health conditions. My recommendation includes getting a power chair a little bit earlier rather than just a bit too late. Don't let stubbornness get in your way. Getting a power chair before that serious accident occurs is being proactive, whereas waiting for an accident to happen and trying to be reactive to your injury situation is never a good thing. If using Medicare or other insurance to help pay for your power chair, remember that this is a long process, so make sure to start those activities early. If you are purchasing a power chair out of your own pocket, remember to get a prescription from your doctor for the chair, as most states will not charge sales tax on a prescribed medical device. Let's get out and enjoy some of God's creation while we can. Happy motoring.